Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Network 216 exclusive. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by Zach DeFranco, Nick Carnes. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Guardians won last night. Huh? Look,
Yeah.
You did.
so
You
much
know
for
what?
discussing brand of baseball.
Uh, I'll tell you what. It was a late night. It's going to be another late night tonight.
Yep.
But it's so worth it when they play like they just did.
And
So
Quan, dude, Quan making an MVP case early.
extend him,
Yeah,
please.
please. Anyways, let's talk some football.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to talk some Browns football. Before we get to that, guys, be sure if you're watching this video, drop a like on this video. What that does is it helps that YouTube algorithm grow. It's also free to drop likes on videos. So if you really would drop likes on only this video, but any of the videos Network 216 produces, please do that. Also subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. We are having a homage giveaway, and to enter that we have the directions on the YouTube channel. Very easy to enter, but you got to make sure you are subscribed to the channel. So subscribe to Network 216 if you're new to our content and if you want to be entered in for the giveaway. And gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the Browns running back room and how we think this is going to shake out moving forward. Now, it's pretty obvious. One guy for sure that's going to be the workhorse this year, and that is the best running back in the league, and that is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, Zach's repping the shirt. I love it. Nick Chubb is arguably, many would say, the best running back in the NFL. It's kind of a debate there. Some others like Derrick Henry, so on and so forth. But last year, Nick Chubb, 1,500 yards, average 5 yards a carry once again. 12 touchdowns, 27 catches, 239 yards, 1 touchdown. So guys, Nick Chubb is going to be the Browns' workhorse again this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be the only thing I want to talk about with Nick Chubb. I think it's going to be interesting how many attempts he gets running the ball. He had over 300 attempts for the first time in his career. He is going to be 28 years old coming up. Kareem Hunt won't be back to take some of the load off there as far as in the run game. So do you guys see the Browns want to transition to more of a shotgun offense? Do you guys see Nick Chubb reaching 300 carries again, or do you think they're going to dial that back a little bit and let this offense really run through Deshaun Watson in 2023?
I really think it just depends on for Stefanski's, side of things. It's mostly going to be game planning. So like I could see Stefanski even made jokes about like, oh, I think we need to give Nick Chubb the ball 24 times, start the game, and see if we win. But I don't think you're going to see that a lot this year. I think you're going to see a balanced offense, but a more pass-heavy offense coming into this season with Deshaun. And I think you can kind of tell by us making, the trade for Elijah Moore, as we talked about on our last show. So I would see average around like 12 to 15 carries a game, but I don't think Nick Chubb's mad about that. You're prolonging his career. He has another chance to get another contract now after this. So I don't think there's really any issues there as long as we're winning football games.
Throughout Nick Chubb's tenure here with Stefanski and his regime, they've done a really good job of splitting his carries. I think last year will prove to be the outlier where he got 300 carries rather than the norm. So personally, and I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, I'm a Jerome Ford supporter. I think that he'll have a significant role in this offense, so we'll get there. But it would surprise me if some running back wasn't here that gave Chubb a little bit of a lower usage. This is kind of the way that the Browns have been for the majority of the time. And I think it makes the most sense, right? Because, Chubb's so important to this team. And I think you want to, especially when you have postseason aspirations, you want to keep him as fresh and as effective throughout the year as possible. And I think the best way you do that is by splitting carries.
Yeah. Absolutely, Nick. And just for a comparison here, so Nick Chubb had over 300 carries for the first time in his career. Derrick Henry has done that 3 years out of his career. 2021, the reason he didn't do that was due to injury. But Derrick Henry's had 303 carries, 378 carries, 349 carries. Wow. That's just for comparison. Yeah. So if you're talking about usage with Nick Chubb has actually been one of the NFL running backs up until last year that never leads the league in carries or is even, I believe, top 5 in carries. So it's a great job the Browns have done really preserving him as much as they can. And you bring up, you led us into a guy that we really have to discuss next, and I think he might be the key to all of this, and that is Jerome Ford, the second-year back coming out of Cincinnati. Now, we know Jerome Ford did not have much of a role with the Browns last year. I don't really think that's anyone's surprise. He still had Kareem Hunt. Demetric Felton was kind of still that guy that a tweener that they decided to use every now and then out of the backfield. But guys, this is what I want to ask you. Do you believe Jerome Ford we haven't seen a ton of them, so this is why this is kind of hard to make this judgment. The most we've seen Jerome Ford is in the preseason. Do you guys believe Jerome Ford can be that backup running back that can come in, perform pretty well when Nick Chubb needs a breather? Can he contribute in the passing game? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves, because the Browns right now only have 3 running backs on the roster, and that is Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, and John Kelly. They're going to have to add another one, but I think who they add will determine how they feel about Jerome Ford. What are your guys' thoughts?
I 100% agree with that, because if you add in the draft, Tyler, I think that they're like, okay, Jerome Ford could be that running back too, split reps with another rookie, because that would basically be in a sense his rookie year as well. He didn't get did he get like any snaps last year on our offense?
I would say he got, a few. Keep in mind, he was our return man when he was healthy.
That's very true.
So he had only had 8 carries last year for 12 yards, 1.5 yards a carry.
So I know there's not really a lot of people to choose from in free agency, but if you go out and you add Jerick McKinnon, I think that shows what their idea is Jerick McKinnon's going to come in. He's going to replace Kareem Hunt. He's going to be, he's still fast off the ball, fast off the line of scrimmage, good receiving back. So if you add Jerick McKinnon for like $3 million a year, something like that, cheap, then yeah, I think Jerome Ford's still going to be kind of limited on his snaps. And it's not like, oh, they're giving up on him. He's just young. He's a product, that they're waiting on. So yeah, I would agree with that, Tyler, that it really depends on who they take either in the draft or if they sign someone like Jerick McKinnon in free agency.
I know Jerome Ford's opportunities were limited in the actual run game, but I really was encouraged by the way he really started to come alive in the return game last year. I think he showed a lot of explosiveness, elusiveness, and we did see him in the preseason. I understand that's preseason, but he looked good, and especially with running backs and just the longevity. So Jerome Ford's on a 4-year contract, right? And so you've already used year
Correct.
1. So it would surprise me if they drafted Jerome to not try to get value out of that 4-year deal. And so I really feel like this is a year that, maybe I don't think the Browns will hand Ford the RB2 role or like the significant load, but whoever they bring in, I think that he will have there'll be a camp competition for who's going to get the second most snaps in the running back room. And I'd feel good about Ford's possibility of winning the majority of those snaps.
Yeah, Jerome Ford's stats coming out of Cincinnati are impressive. He had 215 attempts, 1,300 yards rushing, 6.1 yards a carry, 19 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 220 yards, 1 touchdown. I think to keep in mind, and this is why it's so really what we want to watch is how they handle this as far as do they add a veteran, do they add another rookie? Because Jerome Ford was a 5th-round pick. That kind of tells you, okay, if we can hit on this guy, great. But it almost sounds like that's I'm curious with this one because, again, 5th-round pick, draft capital used was not like high draft capital. If they go out and draft somebody at 78 or at 74 or 98, I think that means that they might be banking on that guy a little bit more than Jerome Ford. Now, if they go out and let's say they don't even draft a running back, which is completely possible, they might not draft one. Let's say they go out, Zach, and add Jerick McKinnon, who is still the guy that I absolutely would add at this point. You can get him for probably $1.5 million, $2 million at the most. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He still can run between the tackles and spell Nick Chubb from time to time. That's the guy I would look at. If they go out and add McKinnon, I think that says that they do believe more in Ford a little bit long term. I really think that's what that says. If you go out and draft a guy, and I'm saying you do it early and you do it on day 2 of the draft, I think that tells us that they might be banking on that guy to be running back 2 as opposed to Jerome Ford. Another guy I would look at as far as a veteran to add, I'd look at J.D. McKissick coming out of Washington. Now, he's coming off injury. You have Antonio Gibson. You have Brian Robinson. Does McKissick really want to go back there and maybe not get the reps that he was getting beforehand? with even that, like, he is their pass catching back, but now you have Robinson, now you have Gibson. Gibson's really taken McKissick's role. If you want to go out and add a guy like JD McKissick coming off an injury, you can get him really cheap to be that receiving back for you. And then Jerome Ford still really has a role moving forward with this offense. All questions that you have to ask yourself. Now, guys, the final question I want to ask you before we kind of just a little bit, just breaking down some draft prospects here. Kareem Hunt, the longer that he's available, it's on social media, so that obviously means it's going to happen. There are a lot of Browns fans that seem to believe Kareem Hunt's coming back the longer he stays available. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I think the writing was on the wall. When you kind of demand a trade, that kind of tells me that, one, you don't really want to be here, and that's fair. He wanted a bigger role. But two, even when he did get touches last year, he did not look like the same player by any means that we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the demanding a trade thing, especially when Andrew Berry is your GM, that doesn't really. I mean, we saw it with Njoku alone. Njoku came in, he demanded the trade. Obviously, yes, he switched his agent, got a deal done, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But like, I mean, Andrew Berry he's calm, cool, and collective, and I don't think that really fazed him. He obviously didn't go, okay, you're gonna get your wish here. Like, no, he kept Kareem Hunt around, and he still had solid production in our offense, solid usage in our offense. So I think if Kareem Hunt does come back, it has to be super cheap. I don't think he just doesn't seem the same. You know, I don't know what it was last year. I just think the injuries might be coming up to him. He just didn't seem like the Kareem Hunt from 2020 or the Kareem Hunt from 2019 that we had.
Yeah, I think all the time about how, Kareem Hunt tied Alvin Kamara for the lead in receiving touchdowns by a running back. Was that 2020? 2020. But all of a sudden, it's been a few years since then, and Kareem's definitely dealt with injuries. I just felt like, and maybe he was dealing with an injury last year, because I didn't see the same explosive Kareem, and I love the guy. I always root for him, and so it really sucks to say that, but the running back market has definitely been slow, and it feels like the longer Kareem Hunt is out there, the more cheaply you could get him. So if I could see the Browns going in that direction, if the price was right, I don't think it's super likely. Tyler, I tend to agree with you that I think Kareem is going to be somewhere else, because you know what, just asking for a trade, maybe that's showing that he wasn't happy with his role here, or would prefer something fresh, right? Mm-hmm. So things go quickly in the NFL, and so I'd still be happy if Kareem was back. I think he showed a lot of great things, and obviously last year was a down year, but last year was a down year in a lot of ways offensively for the Browns, especially in the second half of the year. So if you told me that Kareem was back, I would still buy in that he could bounce back as well. So I suppose we'll see what they do.
He still had 123 rushing attempts and 35 receptions last year. Like, I mean, it's still solid usage. It's just the production really wasn't crazy, So that's the one thing. I think if they replace Kareem, they're going to look for more production, but with the same sort of usage.
I definitely think that moving forward, when you've got Nick Chubb in the contract situation that he is, now I'm hoping Chubb's here far longer, but just being realistic, I think it would make the most sense for the Browns to get two cheaper long-term options, being Jerome Ford and somebody else in the running back room, just to solidify the position with a more murky future, I guess you could call it. I think that probably makes the most sense to me.
And I feel like it's one of those positions that you can replace easier at running back. So like, say we go with Jerome Ford, who's on a rookie deal, draft another rookie they feel confident in. Then once, Nick Chubb hits around the age of 30 and he's pushing that, like, all right, you kind of have your future, you hope, set up after Nick Chubb. Obviously, no one's going to replace who Nick Chubb was and who Nick Chubb is. Like that's, in my opinion, that's hard to come by in a running back. He's generational at running back. So
it's crazy. The running back position is crazy, because like, if you told me that Jerome Ford was our lead back, in years in the future, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And that's a 5th round pick. not again, like with Zach, I'm not saying that he could replace what Nick Chubb is, but the point is I think you can find that type of starter as a 5th round pick. And I'd be comfortable with that. I know we haven't seen a ton from Ford yet, but I do think that he could take that role.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I could see it, and you see it all the time with these running backs that are drafted in later rounds. I mean, Dameon Pierce is a great example from the Texans. Yeah. Dude was in just one of the worst offenses in the NFL, arguably the worst offense in the NFL. Still had 339 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, averaged 4.3 yards a carry. I mean, the dude was just a bowling ball, impossible to tackle. So you can always find diamonds later in the draft, and that kind of brings up really the ending conversation here. So in the draft, there are a bunch of guys that are available, especially in the range the Browns could be looking. I don't see them looking at 74. I really don't. Now, if they believe someone falls and that's the best player available to them, then they'll take them. It doesn't really matter what the position is at that point, except quarterback, I would say. But other than that, I mean, some of the options, guys, that the Browns looks like they could have available, you have Deuce Vaughn. For sure. That's I think I've made it clear that's my guy. Kenny McIntosh, running back out of Georgia. Devin Achane, who out of Texas A&M. I don't think he's going to be there. I mean, PFF has situations where he's there in the 70s, so I put him as an option, even though I don't think the Browns are going to draft one that early. Tank Bigsby coming out of Auburn. The big thing with him is really kind of production, but he played behind a terrible offensive line. So kind of just take that for what it's worth. Zach Evans coming out of Ole Miss, the transfer out of TCU. Evans battled injuries this past year, but, I mean, former 5-star caliber prospect. We know Andrew Berry loves those types of players.
He had a great season in 2021 as well.
He did. He was fantastic. Rashawn Johnson out of Texas. Now, this guy, to me, is one of the biggest wild cards in the entire draft because he played behind Bijan Robinson at Texas, and Robinson is considered to be a generational type of Saquon Barkley running back himself. This guy, some believe, could end up being one of the top running backs out of this class. Keep an eye on him. I think he could absolutely be an option if the Browns are looking at someone later in the draft. Sean Tucker coming out of Syracuse, very underrated player in my opinion. The biggest issue is he's had some medical flags come up, especially at the combine during his pro day. So might cause him to slip. That could be someone the Browns look at, similar to what happened with JOK a couple of years ago. In Israel, Abeknikata. So coming out of Pittsburgh, guys, phenomenal football player. He is. I don't think he gets there. I really don't. But again, PFF has him listed in this range, like the range the Browns could potentially be looking for a running back. He is a phenomenal football player. Again, I just don't know if he gets there. I mean, so what I want to ask, I mean, he had 20 rushing touchdowns this year.
Jeez,
his Ross score is ridiculously impressive. So I want to ask you guys, if you're Andrew Berry, we're going to wrap up. How would you want to move forward with the running back room? So Nick Chubb's a lock. Jerome Ford's a lock. Jerome Kelly, practice squad guy. I think we've seen that the last couple of years, unless they decide that they could bring in another rookie for the practice squad, because that is very much a possibility. How would you guys handle this moving forward? Do you go with a veteran like Jerick McKinnon, J.D. McKissick, look to bring Kareem Hunt back? Or do you go for a rookie in what is a really loaded – and let me say, when I say loaded, there's talent later in the draft at running back more than in years past. How would you guys address it for 2023?
So I alluded to it a little bit. I think a great way to do it would be to draft another rookie, because then you've got Jerome Ford and a rookie, both cheap, behind Nick Chubb. You've got a lot of youth in that room and some longevity, assuming that they are productive. I personally like Roschon Johnson because I think Andrew Berry has drafted, like Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good example of someone Andrew Berry's drafted that wasn't in a situation to be a really sexy from a statistic standpoint, but had a ton of potential. And when you're playing behind Robinson, obviously that is a tough situation to be in as someone who is trying to be productive and get drafted.
Mhm.
So maybe he slips a little bit. Maybe he's better than he was able to show. And I think that's the type of pick that makes a lot of sense for Barry, because if he falls a little bit, especially with the Browns, not having picks till round 3, you all of a sudden you could say, okay, the talent far outweighs the draft position right here. And so I could see that making a ton of sense from Andrew Barry's perspective and what we know about him.
Zach, before you weigh in, let me just add some stats on Rashawn Johnson here for those that aren't familiar. Rashawn Johnson this past year, 554 yards, 6 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns, 128 receiving yards on 14 receptions, the most in his career reception-wise, 1 touchdown. If you look at his numbers, he's averaged over 5 yards a carry. Now, take that for what it's worth. The most carries he had was in 2019, but he's shown that when he plays, he's a really good football player. 6'2", 223 pounds. Yeah, I mean, dude, you don't have to talk me into him. I'll just say that, Nick. Like, I'm on board with this pick. I just think people need to understand, like, where we're coming from with this guy. You are banking on a lot of potential with him. But when you're getting to day 3 of the draft, which is projectively where he's going to be, that's what you're trying to find. You're trying, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, like Andrew Berry found with DPJ. He has found with other late round picks that's what you're looking for. You're looking for straight potential.
I still think he comes in. He's like he could be your running back too instantly. I really do. But like you said, Tyler, it's the potential, and he's questionable as a receiver. So that question is still there. Who's your receiving back really out of the backfield? Is it Jerome Ford? Or they're going to use Felton in that kind of role along with making him, a roster spot at wide receiver? So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but like I'm saying, like he is basically just like a potential, more of a power back like Chubb. So
yeah, I agree. Zach, how would you handle? And then I'll wrap us up. How would you handle the running back room for 2023? Are you looking at free agency? Are you looking at bringing a veteran to spell Chubb? Are you wanting to take a running back in what is, like I said, I'll change my wording, a very deep draft class at the position later in the draft? How would you want to handle this position for 2023?
I just feel like with the way the offense is going to be trending now with Watson and, more pass heavy, I feel like I don't know if they're more inclined to want to split as many reps with Nick Chubb because he's already kind of probably going to be, like I said, maybe 12 to 15 carries a game, which is still great. Nick Chubb's still going to be a great running back. So I don't know what their plan is exactly. I've been kind of pounding the table lately for Jerick McKinnon, and it's not just because my girlfriend wants him. I would love Jerick McKinnon on this team. But if we draft a running back, I think we should go for speed. I just think you kind of have your powerhouse in Nick Chubb. I think I would go for speed. I would go for, I'm not going to pronounce his last name. Tyler, you did it good, but Israel. I like McIntosh because he's a good receiving back as well. So that's the route I would go personally, but thank God I'm not a GM in the NFL.
So I'll read you off some of his stats. So Israel Abaniketa is his, and again, I might not be pronouncing that name. I'm doing the best I can. He's 5'11", 215 pounds, 239 rushing attempts this past year, 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, averaged 6 yards a carry, which funny enough, averaging 6 yards a carry was 41st best in college football, which I find that they must not do it by number of attempts, clearly. But like you said, I mean, 12 catches, 146 yards, 1 touchdown. 2021, he had 24 catches for 197 yards. I don't know. I truly don't know, Zach, if he gets there, because again, I think his RAS score is really going to push him up. I don't know why PFF has him so low. I mean, they have him in the hundreds. I don't know. PFF's pretty good at evaluating talent, so I don't know what the misconception is there with him, but I wouldn't be upset with him. I really wouldn't, but I think the guy for me, and I'm on this train, I'm not going to get off. People can persuade me. They can do whatever they want. I feel like the guy you have to add to this offense, and I stand by this, is Deuce Vaughn. And this is why. Now, Deuce Vaughn is a guy that, one, he can run between the tackles even at his size. He reminds me more of Austin Eckler than he does Darren Sproles.
Ooh.
Austin Eckler's a guy that has power running up the middle. Deuce Vaughn has power running up the middle. Deuce Vaughn can make guys miss in space. Deuce Vaughn is 5'6", 176 pounds. Everyone's like, oh, he's too small. Dude, look at the tape. He's not too small. He can play the position, 293 rushing attempts. This guy is 5'6" and had 293 rushing attempts, 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5.3 yards a carry. He also had 42 catches. Yes, correct. 42 catches, 378 yards, 9 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. The year before that, 49 catches, 468 yards, 4 touchdowns. The year before rushing, 1,400 yards, 18 touchdowns. Like, he can produce. And you know what Deuce Vaughn can also do? He can line up at the slot. You have a guy that you can move everywhere. I shared a highlight the other day. They had him in the slot, run to the back, had him run motion out of the backfield, made a guy miss in space, juked a guy in space to get open on the route, ran for a touchdown, took the hit, got into the end zone.
You're literally describing Austin Eckler, dude. Like, you're literally describing Austin Eckler.
This is what you need if you're the Browns, and he's projected to go on day 3. I get people worried about his size. Don't be worried about it. Let the tape show you. Let the production show you. He led Kansas State to a Big 12 title. This guy led Kansas State to a Big 12 title. That should tell you what you need to know about the guy.
Sorry.
It's fine. He's everything the Browns are missing at the position. And I said it, they are missing a receiving back. It's not a slight to Nick. Everyone wants to say, like, I'm slighting Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb can do it. Guys, I've seen the catch he had against Cincinnati multiple times. I get it. I know the guy can catch the football, but they're not going to have Nick Chubb every down back. I just don't see it. It's never been the way he's been in his career. If you bring in a guy like this, you have your third down back, and you have a guy that Watson can go to out of the backfield in the red zone. There's just endless possibilities with Deuce Vaughn.
If there's one place on the football field that you could get away with cheating height, I feel like it's the running back position.
Exactly, Nick.
It's so
Yep.
Yeah, and I just, you know what? If you're getting to day 3, you're looking for upside, right? And it's hard not to think that there's a ton of upside with it. You know, those are some passionate stats you just read there, Tyler. I feel like if Deuce Vaughn gets picked, it's going to be a good day for you on Twitter.
Dude, if Deuce Vaughn gets picked, I will not shut up on Twitter. I'm telling you right now, I will be the most annoying person on that app. So this is the final thing I'm going to read off, and then we will wrap things up on Vaughn. I'm just going to point out his PFF grades because that matters to the Browns more than just names matter to the Browns. Deuce Vaughn, 89 overall grade 2020, 2021, 91.6, 2022, 82.1. Rushing grade, 84.5. Gap grade, so how he runs in between the tackles, 82.0. Zone grade, the Browns love to run zone, 77.8. So just keep all those in mind. It's going to be fun. I'm so pumped to see how the running back room shakes out for 2023. I know you guys are too. Yeah. As we're wrapping up, guys, is there anything else you guys want to add on the running back room?
You made me change my mind. Dude, I'm looking at this dude now, bro. Baby. I'm looking at this dude now, bro. My goodness, man. You're literally drafting Austin Eckler, bro.
That's true. Everyone wants to say Darren Sproles because Kansas State, small back. I look at the opposite. I really think he is more, and I'm not going to say he's going to become Austin Eckler. He's very similar, that type of mold as a player to Austin Eckler. He is. So,
you know what? If anything, I came in thinking that they might use free agency to address the running back room. If anything, I'm more convinced that when you're looking for, okay, what's the highest upside that we can get for these late picks, the running back is definitely one. Like, it's got to be at the top of that list. So I think they're going to draft a running back. I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. Again, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see how this ends up turning out, because again, Demetric Felton, that's a question mark. Zach, we talked about last week. I don't think he applies into this because it seems like the Browns do not see him as a running back. Just the way that they have him working out at receiver and so on and so forth. So anyways, guys, that was today's Network 216 exclusive on the Browns running back room, the projections we have for 2023. Obviously, we'll break this down once we know for sure draft picks, so on and so forth. We'll probably go back and revisit this segment. But anyways, be sure to drop a like on today's video. Help that YouTube algorithm grow. Help Network 216 grow. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you are brand new to Network 216. If you're unfamiliar with what we do, we provide you with Cleveland sports content daily, and not even just live shows, daily videos. So make sure you don't miss out on any of it. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in today's Network 216 exclusive. We will talk to you all again soon. And go Browns, baby.
Go
Deuce
Browns.
Vaughn, no matter what.